A 3000-watt inverter pulls 250 amps at 12 volts and only 62 at 48. That's number 7 on this list of ways people quietly waste thousands building a battery bank, and it starts with wire. And this is why that should stop you cold. Same power, 4 times the current, which means 4 times the heat and nearly 4 times the copper. Off-grid forums are full of guys who wired a 12-volt bank, watched their cable get warm, but rebuilt the whole thing anyway. There are 7 of these traps, and every one has a receipt behind it. The pattern underneath all of them is the same. An industry that profits when you buy convenience instead of understanding. By the end, you'll know which voltage fits your build, the trap that doubles your budget, and the server rack hack everyone keeps asking for. You've probably stood in a garage staring at a spool of cable, wondering if it's thick enough. At 12 volts, that 3000-watt load wants 4-aught copper and a 300-amp fuse. That cable is the width of your thumb, but it isn't cheap. A 12-volt system, moving 200 amps, can need cable that costs 3 or 4 times a 48-volt run. Same power, far more copper. And it isn't only about cost. Push 200 amps down a long run, and you lose real voltage to heat before it ever reaches the inverter. So you either shorten the run or raise the voltage. Raise the voltage and the amps fall. And the copper, the heat, and the fire risk fall with them. Remember current. It comes back. So you go shopping for a bigger inverter, and this is where 12 volts betrays you. The largest 12-volt inverter Victron sells tops out around 3000 watts. Want 5000? That jumps you straight to 24 or 48 volts. The popular 6000-watt units don't even offer a 12-volt option, and 5000 watts is what runs a well pump and a microwave at the same moment. That ceiling is a wall you hit the day you finally need the power, and the inverter is only half of it. A bigger inverter also wants a bigger charge controller, more panels, thicker wire, and the whole chain scales up with it. So people buy a 12-volt inverter, outgrow it inside a year, and end up buying the thing twice. Nobody pays me to say this. No sponsors, no affiliate kickbacks. I wrote the Home Power Owner's Manual after my father-in-law nearly wired a house on 12 volts. Its sizing worksheet matches your load to the right voltage. Rebuild it wrong, that's thousands. It's $29.99. Scan the code or tap the link below. Now look at the number printed on the battery, because it's lying to you a little. You'd think 5 means 5, but plan on roughly 80% of it. A 5 kilowatt-hour lithium iron phosphate battery is not 5 kilowatt-hours you should lean on daily. That's not me being cautious. That's how EG4 rates its own cycle life, at 80% depth of discharge. Cycle a pack to 80% and it can last thousands of cycles. Drain it flat every single night, and you're trading years of life for a few extra minutes. So if you need 4 kilowatt-hours overnight, you want 5 on the wall, not 4. And this is where people either overspend on capacity they'll never touch, or size it too tight and run dead by 3 in the morning. There's a mistake that shows up in comment sections almost weekly. People parallel batteries to add capacity. Then they mix an old one with a new one, or 2 brands or 2 packs at different charge levels. The fresher battery hogs the load, and the tired one hits cutoff early. But the inrush, the moment you connect them, can blow a BMS instantly. And one more rule that prevents fires. Never mix chemistries in a single bank. Lead acid and lithium do not share a home. And notice something. The wire trap, the inverter trap, and this one all trace back to one root mistake. You picked your battery before you picked your voltage. Choose voltage last, and everything downstream fights you. Now the part that actually puts money back in your pocket. A branded all-in-one power station runs about 49 to 54 cents per watt-hour. Raw lithium iron phosphate cells with a BMS come in near 15 cents. That's roughly 3 times the price for the comfort of plug and play. And there's a middle road too. A listed server rack battery lands near 29 cents a watt-hour, about half the branded station with none of the raw cell risk. I personally think a branded unit earns it for a lot of people. It's listed, it's warranted, you set it down, and it just works. But if you're building a fixed bank bolted to a wall, that plug-and-play tax is money you may not need to spend. The trap isn't buying branded. The trap is buying branded prices for a job that never needed them. And this is the one your comment section will not stop asking about. People expand a power station by feeding an external battery into its solar input. The charger treats any inspect direct current like a panel. Done carefully, that's how you reach 15 cents a watt hour on a much bigger bank. But a solar panel is current limited. A 200-watt panel can shove maybe 8 amps into a dead short. A battery can shove several thousand. The port and its little fuse were never sized for a fault like that. So stay inside the port's voltage window, fuse the battery for the port's rating, and know that no manufacturer signs off on this. One brand actually documents a non-solar input in its manual. Every other brand does not, so assume you're on your own. It's a hack, not a blessing. And that right there is current coming back to bite you. Which brings us to the most expensive mistake of them all, and it's the quietest one on the list. You build a 12-volt bank because it's cheap and easy. But a year later, you add a well pump, or an air conditioner, or a welder. Suddenly 12 volts can't carry the load, so you rebuild the entire bank at 48. New batteries, new inverter, new cable. That is the thousands in the title. And it's the callback I planted 6 traps ago. You chose your voltage last, so you paid for the same bank twice. And the point here was never to scare you off building one of these. A home battery bank is one of the best value moves in this entire hobby. And yes, I know I just spent 8 minutes making 48 volts sound like a religion. It isn't. The voltage just has to be the first decision, not the last. So this is what actually works. If you're wiring a van, a boat, or a small cabin under about 1500 watts, 12 volts is genuinely the right answer. It's simple, the parts are on every shelf, and your native 12-volt loads skip a conversion step. The honest caveat, don't try to grow it into a whole house later. It will fight you the entire way. But for a rig that moves, nothing beats how simple 12 volts stays. If you land in the middle, a workshop or a tiny home, 24 volts is the quiet sweet spot. Half the current of 12 and easier on your wallet than most people expect. But the catch is a thinner product shelf. Fewer inverters, fewer chargers. So check what's actually available before you commit to it. For a lot of mid-size builds though, it's the smartest money in the whole lineup. And for a whole home, 48 volts is the standard nearly every professional defaults to now. Pair it with server rack batteries. A listed unit runs around 29 cents a watt hour, or raw cells near 15 if you truly know your stuff. But the honest caveat, a raw cell bank usually isn't listed to a safety standard. And that matters for permits, insurance, and any grid tie. So build it clean and documented, or buy it listed. Your call. The whole thing collapses into one line. Current is the enemy, and voltage is how you beat it. Find your biggest continuous load, choose the voltage that carries it without heroic copper, and only then buy the battery. Do that, and you'll never once pay for the same bank twice. You'll build it once, build it right, and spend the savings on something that isn't copper. And if you want to watch one of these banks built, wired, and fused from empty shelf to running system, that's the whole next video. It was built to sit right beside this one. YouTube thinks you'll like it, so go click it. And if you made it all the way to the end, subscribe.